I'm struggling to put into words what I felt and experienced. I didn't have a lot of downtime there to journal daily or process things. I was just too tired at the end of the day. I went there with my buddy James, who I've known for over 20 years. He heads up an organization called Ugandan Water Project. He's done this for a long time, I think some like 17 years. And they provide clean water efforts throughout the country of Uganda, which, to be truthful, I had heard of. I didn't really know anything about. I really more heard of it because of James. I knew there was a country named Uganda in the same way that I would know some other countries in Africa by seeing them on a globe or a map, but I didn't really know anything about it. And part of the reason I went is maybe a little selfish. I wanted to kind of experience new things. I felt over the last, especially 2 or 3 years of my life, that something was missing or something was not engaged. It felt like some cables weren't on the battery, like the jumper cables weren't on the battery. I enjoy my work. I'm very, very grateful for my life, but it still felt like something was missing. And he's been trying to get me over there for years now. The timing never worked because I had other conflicts. And I got to go on this trip as part of a leadership advance where me, along with several other people that James handpicked to invite, would come and share and invest in him and his team over there, but they could also pour into us and we could pour into each other. Think about it like a mastermind on steroids in Uganda while doing some really important work, seeing what his organization does, and getting to see the sights and hear the sounds and feel the vibe and the energy of Uganda. I wanted to feel, I guess, something different. I read this quote by the Sufi poet Rumi, and he said, "You have to keep breaking your heart over and over and over again until it opens." And I thought that that was just such a powerful way of expressing why I chose to go on this trip. I got to do the work that I normally do in a much more connected and meaningful way. And maybe that's just because I got to get my hands dirty, really feel and do the work on the ground that my profession and skill set of marketing and storytelling can often keep a distance from. It's a weird world that I've lived in for a while where I'm in this service oriented business, service oriented industry where we're supposed to help others, but we can do it from a distance where we don't get our hands and our feet dirty and we're very removed from the people that we help. And then we make who we help like a trophy case and status symbols of who we are so that we can help other people while still maintaining our distance. And I just always thought that that was weird. It's one of the reasons that I've never let go of coaching and speaking and working with people and doing workshops. I know I could just hide behind a laptop or a computer screen and far removed from my audience or my community, but I just never thought that that made any sense because I always wanted to maintain a connection to the people who were asking me to help them. That's one of the reasons that I went on this trip. I think it's really easy as somebody who's in my industry as a coach, a speaker, an idea person, a writer, a marketer, to keep your distance from people and just tell them, hey, here's how you fix this and here this will look better and you go do this, but not really feel connected. And um I've gotten to work with well-known quote unquote people and businesses throughout my career. Yeah, it's been cool. Uh, but I always think about who are the people and who are the organizations and who are the businesses and what are the projects that come across my path and I come across theirs for no other reason that they're just there and I'm just there and I we happen to meet. On this trip I saw the Nile River and what a majestic experience. Just I love experiences that make you feel small because as human beings we can make everything that we do so big. They were saying something along the lines of the water that we were looking at flowing at the Nile that day took 3 months to get there from the source. And that's just like mind blowing. I don't know if I'm doing the math right or the science right, but it's just mind blowing. And I just think about a branch or whatever that's floating along that river. It's kind of going the same direction. This is how life is. We're all kind of going in the same direction because of time, right? We're all marching towards this inevitable destination. And maybe when you start out, you're going down the middle and then you hit the left bank and then you get knocked into the right bank and then you get tossed and turned and you bump into another branch or a rock and you meet them. Then you're stuck together for a little while as you go through the water and down the river. And maybe something happens that takes you apart or you bump into something and another branch comes and kind of run with that one for a while. And that's sort of how I look at the people and the projects in my life. We're marching down a certain path. We're going to a certain destination, which, not to be morbid, is our death. And I've just never tried to go grab another branch that's out there or anything like that. I just kind of always let it come to me. And in that light, I just thought, I'm going to help these people because we happen to be branched together at this point in the journey on the river. I've always tried to be helpful to the people I've found my way into relationship with and stop trying to hold on to those that may, go down that part of the river down over there. And maybe we'll meet again. One afternoon I got to spend some time with the UWP team. Me and several of the other guys who'd gone on this trip split up and got to share with different departments and initiatives within the organization. So I got to hang out for the afternoon with a couple of gals on the team, Grace, Ruth, and Lucy, and talk a little bit about marketing and storytelling and some of the things that I've taught a million times. And it was so fun. It was so fulfilling. And it hit me that maybe not the skills or the things that I have known and learned how to do. Maybe it's not that I'm bored of those things. Maybe I just need to use them in a different context. I need to use them in a different environment, to something that feels a little bit more connected to me and to a cause that's meaningful. Again, you keep breaking your heart until it opens, right? And I think a surprising thing in that experience for me was that I realized that I still have a lot of things that I can help people with. I have value. My experiences and skills can really be helpful to people. I just have to find the right people. And I have to allow myself to open up to those possibilities to help solve problems that are maybe different or in different contexts than the ones that I've solved in the past. I've said for a while to myself, I want to solve bigger problems in the next 3 years of my life. And I look back on the problems I've solved over the last 10 years of my business. This is my 10th year full time in what I do. And I've had to ask myself, are you really proud of the problems that you've helped solve? Have you given your time, talent, and experiences and energy to things that really, really feel connected deeper to your soul? And the answer is yes. I mean, I don't think I could have done what I did for as long as I did if that wasn't the case. I'm one of those people that has to really feel that there's meaning and importance and weight to what I'm doing. I've never done it for the money. I'm grateful for the money. I'm grateful for what I've earned and the life that it's afforded to give me. But I never did it for the money. I never said I'm going to go do that contract because I need X amount of dollars. It was more because I cared about the business or the business owner or the cause, the initiative, the project, whatever it was. And I think after a while of doing the same thing in the same markets, that can wear you down a little. It can disconnect you from your soul. So I've decided I'm gonna help these people, and I'm gonna help this organization. I'm gonna be part of it. One of the things that And we were out on the safari and we stayed at this lodge, and I got to live my dream of finally seeing and experiencing an African safari. And being out there in the ruggedness of nature against this, up under this infinite sky, just feeling completely tiny and small. I noticed that there were patches of trees and forests and herds of animals. And then I noticed that there were trees that were standing alone, solitary, and animals that were wandering around solitary. One of the guys, Joseph, on the team, a Ugandan, a native dude there, he goes, "Oh, that's a loser. It's probably been shunned by its herd." I think it was like a buffalo or something that was just walking around alone or something. And we were all laughing. And somebody shared that night that no matter how big and grand a tree is, it's still just a tree. You need more than one. You need several to create a forest. And it's that kind of impact that I was so impressed by seeing through the team at the Ugandan Water Project. My friend James is amazing. I've known him again over 20 years. I was jaw-droppingly amazed at how many things he has to juggle. He and his team have to juggle. And I can only think about what it was like those first 5 years for him to get this organization on the ground, to recruit his team, to make the connections and build the relationships. And he's still just driven by this passion to see this transformation happen in this country, which he's essentially adopted as his own. He grew up in he's from a small town in upstate New York. And to see the culture that he's built in this team is incredible. If he ran a business, he'd be a multimillionaire easily, no doubt about it. The leadership, the delegation, the culture, the team building, all the initiatives, all the things that he's got to juggle. I always found him as an impressive individual, but to see him in his element, I was legitimately blown away by how well his organization is run, how well they do things, the spirit and standard of excellence that they maintain. And so all of this spoke to me, what do I want to give my life to the next couple of years? Who is the river going to bring into my particular path as we flow down this river of time? I don't know. But I do know that whoever I bump into, whoever comes into my sphere, I'm going to help, and I'm going to give my time and my talent to, so that's kind of one of the big things in my heart. For a while, I've shared with very close friends that I feel like a need to care about something. I miss having that passion that I had for something, anything that I had when I was younger. I feel like it's like tapered off as I've gotten older. And one of the tough things about being in marketing is that to do it well, you really have to understand psychology. You have to understand people's underlying motives and what they really want. And for a person like me who isn't willing necessarily to push all the buttons just to get what I want and elicit a response out of people unless I think it's in alignment and integrity with them. Translation, I won't manipulate people using the principles I know to get them to do something they don't really want or need. Knowing this can jade you. Knowing some of these things can really, really jade you. And for someone like me who is an overthinker and is pretty introspective, it can lead me down kind of an internal tornado, if you will, on the inside of why I'm doing certain things, how I'm doing certain things, and then ultimately, like, everything is meaningless, everything is pointless. And that can disconnect you from passion, and it can disconnect you from emotion and feeling. I've liked this recent way of understanding emotion. It's just energy and motion. You've got to put things into play. And for a while, I think I've sat meditating, trying to think through and process through and wait for this answer, sitting under the shade of the Boda tree or something, waiting for that spark to hit me. And this trip reminded me again that you've got to put things into motion. And even if it's not you that's feeling that emotion, if anything, you got to get around, you got to get around people who do have it, and it'll rub off on you. It can be contagious. For a long time, I've been guarded against that. I think I had to do a lot with a lot of things that happened in my personal life where I just didn't, I wanted to kind of protect my emotions, my energy, feelings. Um, but I would just share, if that's you, if you resonate at all with that in any way, get around people who are passionate, even if it feels stupid or pointless, even if you don't really care at all about what they do or what they care about. Get around it, and you might find that something just awakens in you. I'll close with this. I feel that in a lot of ways, I chose this life. My life is a result of decisions that I've made, despite me flowing down a river, bumping into people and things along the way. I made certain decisions, and that is my life. But I also feel in some ways that it chose me. And I've heard it said that you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything. There's always a price to pay. There's always something that you're giving up when you say yes to one thing, because you have to say no to other things. And for a while, I have waited for years for the right person, the right time, the right situation to do something, and I think I just stopped waiting, and I just decided to go do it. Tomorrow isn't promised to any of us. And so if you find yourself there and you find yourself in kind of this whirlwind or tornado or internal spin of what am I going to do with my life, just go do life. Just go do life. And let the things that you're involved in around you revolve around you doing life, whether it's your business, your relationships, your hobbies, your interests, what you're curious about. Just go do life. One of the things that really shocked me was how impactful it was to just play with kids that were there. This one school we went to, we were providing water filters and rebuilding a tank. And I got to really understand how the rainwater collection systems work that James and the team build. But one day I got to go down. One thing he had us do there was to actually walk down with jerry cans to where they draw water from the source. And this is something that the kids in the school do during their school day. Like, instead of staying in class, they've got to walk down this hill, which means they have to walk back up a hill. It's about 4 football fields long, and draw water from this nasty puddle, basically a big puddle that collects runoff water from the hill. And they collected in this jerry can. It smelled, it was dirty, it was filthy. Who knows what's in there? And they'd fill these jerry cans and then walk them back up the hill. And I'm like reasonably in shape, and that was hard work. And that heat is heavy. I weigh 200 pounds. These are little kids bringing this stuff back up the hill. And they don't always have the resources to even boil the water to purify it. They just drink it. Oh, it makes my stomach turn just thinking about that. It makes my heart break. And James did a demonstration on how the filters work, and it's just unbelievable. You just filter it and it's ready to go. He had a guitar in his van, and I got to play it a little bit for the kids, and just seeing them light up and smile. Played some soccer with the kids just to kick the ball around and just see the delight on their faces, and this would happen in a lot of other places that we would visit and go to, because there's just kids everywhere. There's just kids everywhere. I don't have kids. I'd always wanted them. And I felt like when my life unfolded in a certain way that it probably wouldn't happen, just understanding me and the way that I think and operate. And about 2 years ago, I became okay with that. I became okay with that. And one of the things that I shared with the team during one of my sessions was about the power of good questions. I think oftentimes we want good answers, and they start with asking better questions. If you want better answers, you got to ask better questions. And I shared something that a guy named Dan Miller, who passed away about a year ago, he was an author, a coach. I wasn't too close with Dan. He was closer to friends of mine and other mentors of mine. But in the few times I met him, he shared with me this one question that has helped me a lot. What does this make possible? Whether it's something good, a challenge, a setback, what does this make possible? And honestly, I would not have been able to go on this trip and have these experiences and have met the people that I've met had my life turned out a different way. I've always been a fan of the underdog. I remember when I first started watching sports with my dad growing up, he'd ask me what football team I liked or what baseball team I liked. And I always liked the underdog, which is odd because all the teams that I follow and like have actually become really successful, but they weren't when I first started following them. But I'd always had a heart for the underdog. And that's been true even in business, in my line of work, the clients, the people I really, really enjoy being with. And I think what's underlying all of that is that people just deserve a chance. They just deserve a shot. Not everyone even gets a shot. And I think seeing the kids and just thinking through that, you know, to give people a shot, and whatever your situation is, give yourself a shot. Give yourself a fighting chance. So those are just some of my thoughts. Jet lagged, no coffee, probably going to force myself to try to sleep again, realign my body clock. I'm grateful I got to go on this trip. Very, very grateful. Let's see where the river takes us.